We're going to talk about the lengths that cult leader, the head of Scientology, David Miscavige, went to try and ruin his own niece's family. The Daily Mail is out with an explosive story today, and we're going to talk about it.
Hip, hip, hooray!
Hello, everybody, and welcome. I'm Natalie, and this is Scientology Life After a Cult, where we talk about a lot of Scientology culty stuff. My 35 years in this cult and leaving with 3 generations of my family. There is a story out in the Daily Mail covering, if you guys follow me on YouTube, you probably also follow Jenna Miscavige, who is the niece of Scientology dictator David Miscavige. And Jenna left Scientology some years ago. She wrote an amazing book, which you absolutely should read. I'm now listening to it on Audible. And the Daily Mail is out with a lengthy article about what she went through and what she's been sharing recently on her own channel. Jenna Miscavige has been putting out scathing videos detailing what it was like when she was leaving Scientology with her then husband, Dallas. So we are going to take a look at that Daily Mail article and we are going to break it down. We're going to translate a few things and we're going to talk about this because can you imagine, you guys, belonging to a church and maybe your, I don't know, your uncle, your brother, whatever it is a pastor there. And then you decide you just don't want to be part of that church anymore. And instead of just being allowed to leave, that pastor, that family member, whoever it is, starts putting spies in your life, having people report on you back to Scientology and or the leader of that church, that hypothetical church. If you can put yourself in that situation and imagine what that would possibly be like. So we are going to take a look at this. We're going to go through the article. It's blowing my mind. I've told you guys I'm re-listening to Jenna's book right now on Audible. I had read it years ago. Let's get into this here. So this is, again, in the Daily Mail. Scientology's leader's niece claims cult destroyed her marriage in explosive new videos. The niece of Scientology leader David Miscavige has blamed the organization for destroying her marriage in a bombshell series of videos packed with explosive allegations. And they are explosive, people, and they are true. She wrote a whole book about it. She's been speaking out about this for years. Jenna Miscavige, 40, blames what she calls the cult of the Church of Scientology as she reveals chilling details about the breakdown of her marriage. Jenna divorced her husband, Dallas Hill, 44, last year and now lives in California with her 2 children. The couple both grew up in the Church of Scientology and met as kids there before leaving in 2005. They met when they were in their teens, which is still kids, but I think she was 16 around there when she met Dallas. In the video, the mom of 2 claimed her marriage was unable to recover from the distrust sowed by the web of spies she claims the organization inserted into her life. The Church of Scientology did their darndest to make life hell for us, she says. The church denied all of her allegations in a statement to the Daily Mail. So let's just talk about that little piece right there. Put people in their lives. Now, when Jenna Miscavige and her husband at the time, Dallas, left Scientology, his family were very much still Scientologists. So guess who was reporting on them back to Scientology? I mean, picture this, you guys. You belong to a church organization. Your own family is feeding information back to the leader. This is one of the most culty things ever. And this is why Scientology is a cult, a human trafficking cult. And I'm glad that this message, what she's been sharing recently on her videos, what she has shared in her book is getting out there even further with this article. Swedish, Andrea, you're right. Jenna is a true fighter. She is. That girl is fierce, truly. Failed pessimist, exactly. She was speaking out when it was not safe to do. Not safe at all to do so. That's true. That's very true. Today, here on YouTube, I've been on YouTube since December, exposing Scientology, sharing my story and that of others. And she's been doing it much longer. Today, I have all of you, never in Scientology, but all in on ending this cult. Jenna Miscavige has been doing this way before there was that level of support. And that's why I love seeing her on YouTube today, getting that support and having all of you here being that support. So let's look at some more of this. I mean, it's just hard to imagine, but you don't have to imagine because this isn't even unique just to Jenna Miscavige and her family. This has happened to so many families in Scientology. In the video, the mom of two claimed her marriage was unable to recover from the distrust sowed by the web of spies she claimed the organization inserted into her life. And like I said, we're talking family members, friends who were just reporting back to Scientology. And of course, Scientology, when the Daily Mail went, hey, that whole spying on the leader's niece and all of that you guys did, what do you have to say about that? Apparently, they have nothing to say about that except that it's not true. Look how adorable. They're just little babies there. So cute. Okay, so it says the couple had met as kids while at a Florida boarding school where they were training to become members of the church's Sea organization, during which she claims they were made to work grueling 14-hour days, 7 days a week. Okay, first off, let's just correct that little. They didn't meet at a Scientology boarding school. They met as Sea Org members working 24/7 for Scientology. So little thing there, just little thing. Wanted to just, point that one out. Stephen the says, Jenna, Queen Tori, they took huge risks for speaking out when they started. That's very true. And that is another, I'm glad you said that, Steffi. And I'm sorry I called you Stephen and now I'm seeing it says Steffi. That is, for me, that is a big part of this story because people like Tori Magoo 44, Jenna Miscavige, Jeff Hawkins, so many former Scientologists came forward to share their stories. When my family and I, 3 generations of my family, were leaving, it was those stories that really helped us because we thought we were the only ones. We did. We thought we were the only ones. And hearing the stories of other people and their experiences in Scientology reinforced for us that we were doing the right thing by leaving this human trafficking cult. So it goes on to say, Jenna is the daughter of Elizabeth Biddy Miscavige and Ron Miscavige Jr., the elder brother of controversial Scientology leader David Miscavige. Ron left the church in 2000, while David has faced a series of lawsuits, including human trafficking allegations. Now, so Ron Sr., so David and Ronnie Miscavige's father, Ron Miscavige, you guys have heard about him too. He has since passed away, but he wrote a book called Ruthless about his son, and his name was Ron Miscavige. So there's a senior, a junior, and then of course, David Miscavige. So wanted to kind of get that straight there. A spokesperson for, and I got to stop saying church because you guys know I can only handle saying Church of Scientology so many times and my body will not allow it. So I gotta switch that. A spokesperson for the cult previously denied the allegations, calling them absurd, ridiculous, scurrilous, and blatantly false. Okay, number one, I meant to look this up and I didn't. I don't even know what scurrilous means. What does that mean? Does anybody know? I wonder if I can just search it up here quick too. I should have cleared my misunderstood word before we started here, but I forgot. So it means making or spreading scandalous claims about someone with the intention of damaging their reputation. Oh my God, that's so on brand, Scientology, for your response to just put a bunch of words in there, or at least one that is just sounds crazy. But okay, if you say so, Scientology, if we say so. James Steele says, if I ever need someone to fight for me, it's Jenna Miscavige. Yeah, absolutely. Failed pessimist, very true. David Miscavige has a twin sister. Little known fact. I've always felt, side note here, let's put a pin in this for a minute. There, and I could be wrong, seems like a lot of twins in Scientology. Again, I could be wrong. It could just be a coincidence, or there are just that many twins in any given population. David Miscavige was a twin. Even Aaron Smith Levin, twin. Sterling Tompkins, twin. And there are a few others. Just sidebar, put a pin in it, just something that once in a while enters into my head like, are there more? Or is it just that's how many twins are in a population? But if anyone ever wanted to deep dive into that, let me know because it's a question that I've had. All right, back to this article. So again, Scientology, absurd. It's ridiculous. It's scurrilous and blatantly false. Yeah, whatever. Okay. Meanwhile, after Jenna left the organization, she became one of its most vocal critics, publishing a best selling memoir titled My Secret Life Inside Scientology and My Harrowing Escape. She met her future husband, Dallas, as a child. Okay, so this is the part that I want to correct. They didn't meet in a Florida boarding school, they were Sea Org members. Her husband, first hesitant, left with her at the last minute, even after he allegedly cooperated with other Scientologists to have her ousted and his status saved. Hill did not respond to dailymail.com when asked about Jenna's claims. So here is the thing. When you are in Scientology, especially in the Sea organization, and one of you is leaving, Scientology will do everything they can to make sure the other person stays, whether it's that through divorce, whatever it is. Now, on the flip side, if keeping your marriage together keeps you both in Scientology or in the Sea Org, they would push for that. So it's not so much about what is best for a couple or for Scientologists, but what is best for Scientology themselves. That is really what it is about. When I wanted to divorce from my first husband, they were not having it because we were Sea organization members and they knew that if we split, I would be leaving the Sea organization because I would need to get a job outside of Scientology to support my family. My ex-husband and I had 2 kids at the time, and splitting up would mean 2 households and all that. And the Sea organization knew that would mean me leaving, which I wanted to leave the Sea organization. So they have a long history of messing with and interfering with people's personal relationships and families in a failed effort to protect Scientology. All it does is make things worse. That is the crazy thing about it. So let's see. She claims she and her husband were being followed by Scientology for years, and the organization was inserting spies into our life. She says that created a painful web of distrust and paranoia, especially when it overlapped with their family's complex links to the cult. So she goes on to say she also accused Dallas's family of reporting them to Scientology and giving information about them. This went on for many more years, and it really created a huge divide in the family. It made it very hard to be happy after leaving Scientology and to get on with a life. Now, here's the thing about Scientology families a lot of the time. I know we hear this, you look at it and you're like, oh my gosh, how horrible for them to report on them to Scientology. It is completely, but they're totally brainwashed and have bought into the indoctrination that they are actually going to save Dallas and Jenna by doing this. So in Scientology, L. Ron Hubbard says that if you properly label somebody as a potential trouble source or as a suppressive person, then it leaves the door open to Scientology open just a crack. Just a crack. He literally says, I think that it's a crack. It's just a crack by labeling them. The truth is, Scientology labels people being suppressive people, so Scientologists don't communicate with them. So they have no connection, so they don't find out because leaving Scientology is catchy. It will rub off on others. And that's why Scientology fights so hard to try to cut those ties. So what they'll also do when an individual or a couple or a family is leaving Scientology is first, they will try to find out as much as they can. What are they doing? Who are they speaking to? And this is where the family members come in. But these family members aren't doing it necessarily because they hate the people. Now, I'm talking in general terms. I cannot speak on what the thoughts, feelings, or intentions were of Jenna or Dallas's family in that way. But in Scientology, a lot of people think they're actually helping the person by ratting on them because they think that Scientology is the only thing that will give them their spiritual freedom and make sure they don't go back to the implant station and forget the entire lifetime. So they actually do this because they think it's like this act of love that they're doing something helpful. And it's not. You're spying on these people for the cult you belong to. but they don't recognize this. Look how cute. I just can't even. So cute. I love that picture. After they eventually left the cult in 2005, Jenna became a vocal critic of the religion. Oh, wait, we read that part earlier. So Jenna goes on to say, I was like the black sheep. Scientology cut me and Dallas off from many people, even though we tried to tell them all of the horrible things that Scientology had done. Because as you guys know, this is exactly what Scientology is trying to stop. And here's the crazy thing, you guys. For as hard as Scientology works to disconnect families, they do a crap job at not doubling down on their stupidity, because what that does is it upsets both parties. Now, not 100% of the time. In many cases, the Scientologists disconnecting from loved ones, they don't like it. They know they have to do it. Their indoctrination and brainwashing tells them they have to do it. Scientology tells them they have to do it. Or, of course, Scientology likes to say, no, disconnection is a choice. It is. Is it a choice? Is it a choice when you're telling people, hey, if you don't disconnect from Natalie, if you don't unfriend Natalie Webster on Facebook, you're not going to be able to have a relationship with your child in the Sea Org. This happened over and over again, and this is what was happening to them. So now you've got people on both sides of the equation not happy with Scientology, even if they are being compliant with it. And they don't learn. They will not do this differently because this is a core belief in Scientology. This is what L. Ron Hubbard, the founder, the source, said to do. So they will always do it. Goes on to say, it just built this whole sort of tension around Dallas choosing Scientology or his family over me. And that just never really went away, she said in the footage. I just wanted to tell the story because Scientology just made it so hard for us to be married, for us to be loyal to each other, for us to have happy times together. And even when we were gone, they still just did their darndest to make life hell for us, she says. So issues and upset within the family, just after so many years, it became impossible to recover from. And honestly, that is how Scientology destroyed my marriage. And that's Jenna saying that. And this is so true. It creates, even if you leave and they told his family, hey, we're leaving Scientology. It creates this tension. Can you imagine? Put yourself in the shoes there. Dallas's family was like, pretty much sounds like they would have been happy if he would have just divorced Jenna at that point to stay in Scientology. They wanted their son to stay in Scientology, to be in good standing with Scientology so they could continue to have a relationship with him. And this is many people who learn about this and they see this practice of disconnection in Scientology just think, well, it sounds like the most insane thing ever. It is. It is. And there are even Scientologists who think that, but they're stuck. They're brainwashed. They're indoctrinated to believe that Scientology is the only way to ensure their spiritual freedom. And so they go along with it. All right, let me pull this back up here. Okay, so let's see. So those upsets continue. Look how cute. Just adorable. I think that's from her book. And this is from years ago, Jenna and Dallas together. They got some great photos in here. So in other videos, this is the article continues, she claimed as a child she would haul rocks instead of receiving an education on a chain gang while isolated from her parents. This is very true. If you guys have followed, if you watch Jenna here on YouTube or you read her book, she was separated. She would see her parents for a few hours on the weekend from, I think, like ages 6 to 12. But from 12 to 16, which is about when her parents left, she only saw them a couple of times over a 4-year period. So when her parents left Scientology, she really didn't have a connection to them. The people she knew as her family and friends were other Sea Org members in the Sea Org. And so they left, she stayed. And then she met Dallas and they got married and so on, and then ended up leaving. So let's see, goes on to say, and the whole hauling rocks things instead of receiving an education, that is absolutely true too. She was a child at the Scientology ranch. She was a cadet, and cadets are not children. In fact, in the Sea organization, children are not cadets, they're children. But once you are a cadet, you are a Sea Org member in training. You are no longer a child, you are a big being in a little body. From cadet, you go to Sea Org member. And you could be a Sea Org member as young as I've spoken to former Sea Org members who were Sea Org members at the age of 12. You guys have seen their videos here. So where is the childhood? There is no childhood. Instead, they're hauling rocks. They're doing all of this manual labor and work for Scientology as children. And then they're doing their Scientology indoctrination and training, and they're doing very little in the ways of what would be considered school or a full education. And all of this just hiding behind this religion that Scientology is a church, that they get to educate their people as they see fit. As you guys know, it is insane. James says, after all Jenna has been through, how is she so amazing, sweet, loyal, and loving? I know that is something that blows my mind often. And I think it just shows that people, I had a cult expert on not that long ago. We talked about how Scientology is the most difficult cult to recover from, that it takes an average of about 12 and a half years to recover from Scientology, that it takes about 3 to 4 times to the amount of time it takes to deprogram somebody from Scientology versus another cult. It's huge. It is very difficult. And I give a lot of credit to her and others who can continue to show. And honestly, I'm gonna pat myself on the back right now because I came from the same place. Speaking from my own point of view on this, I think really we're at different places in our healing. But for some of us, I can just speak for myself, so I'm going to speak for me. I got to the point where I realized I didn't like the person I was in Scientology. I didn't want to be that person. I didn't want to be a Sea Org member. And long after I left the Sea Org, I was still considered a Sea Org member in the eyes of Scientology. They would throw that stuff in my face all the time. You're a Sea Org member. And I'd be like, no, actually, I left. They didn't see it that way. Once you're a Sea Org member, you're committed. You're here on the same terms as the rest of us, win or die in the attempt. That is an exact quote from Keeping Scientology Working, a policy by L. Ron Hubbard at the beginning of every major course in Scientology. You're here on the same terms as the rest of us, win or die in the attempt. That's what that policy letter says. That is at the start, again, in this church of every major course. It speaks to the mindset. So when you can move away from that and you can nourish and you can nurture empathy and compassion and still do your best to show up with empathy and compassion where you can, I think it's a beautiful thing. Anybody, many of you have been through childhood trauma. You've been through abusive relationships. Some of you high control groups, and some of you even other cults. And maybe you can relate to that. It's just when we lived our lives that way, I was unhappy for such a long period of time. I don't want to be unhappy anymore. I don't want to not have fun. I don't want to work all the time. I don't want to even save the planet. I don't think it's my responsibility to save all of mankind. These are concepts that were embedded into our heads as children in Scientology. And what that ends up doing is you develop this over sense of responsibility that, oh, I see something, I need to go fix it and handle it, even though it's got nothing to do with me. It's not my responsibility. Nobody asked for my help, but I'm going to go handle it because I'm a Scientologist and we're the only ones who have the answers. And even when you leave Scientology, for some, that's a hard thing to let go of because it's so embedded. And this is what they were doing with children at the ranch, but even more hardcore, way more hardcore than I had it. I grew up in Scientology, but I didn't grow up in the Sea Org. By the time I was exposed to the Sea Org and as a staff member, I was 15 years old, which is still young, don't get me wrong. But growing up in the Sea Org and being exposed to this is a whole different level of control and that stunting of all of those things that make us beautiful as humans. So I think having the ability to choose something different and realize that that was never us. It's what we were made to believe was us. It's what somebody else wanted us to be. Scientology wanted us to be little warriors to go fight for Scientology. And it was just not going to happen. I mean, it did for a while with many of us. Red Queen says, I can understand that. I have been through trauma as a child. And yes, that sounds like me, always looking to heal people. Yeah, right. Isn't it crazy? Definite trouble source. It's not Natalie's responsibility to save 8.1 billion of us. I know, shocking. Not only it's not my responsibility, it's not even in my lane. The only thing I'm responsible ultimately is myself, my family, right? Things that are my job that I've taken on, that I have a role in doing. And that's something that took me years to let go of and not feel like I need to correct this person. I need to handle this person that has nothing to do with me. That comes from that Scientology mentality. It comes from the behavior we saw when Jenna Miscavige and her then husband Dallas were trying to leave Scientology. The control, the spying, other people interjecting, telling them what they should be doing, all of those things. So let's see here. Her parents, Ron and Biddy, left the church, cult. I can't say church anymore. Left the cult in 2000 when she was still 16 and enrolled in the work camp. And I think they're talking about the Sea organization there, right? Because there are this Yep, this was right after the ranch. So both members of the Sea Org, the pair wanted Jenna to leave as well, but she says she refused because of her isolation, the fact she hadn't seen them for years, and because her only loved ones at the time were Scientologists. People in the Sea organization. She was there from being a really little girl. When you don't grow up with your parents and these other people become the adults in your life, those are the people that you think that you should be trusting, that you should be going along with. And to break free from that and that mentality is huge. So this article, I think we're going to see more of it. If you have not been keeping up on Jenna Miscavige's, oh my gosh, see with the hair here. I got to get the humidifier in here that somebody recommended. If you haven't been watching her videos, check it out. Jenna Miscavige. You can find her here on YouTube. In fact, you know what? I'm going to pull up her channel and I will make sure to link it in this video. And if you have not read her book or listened to it on Audible, do it. I'm doing it, and it is fascinating. It is heartbreaking, but I think it really helps share what it's like from such a young age to, in the Sea organization into adulthood. And one takeaway from the book for me was how, the Jenna we know today that you see, who she's one of the strongest women I know, but she's also one of the most caring and thoughtful people that I know as well. And I'll be honest, it's amazing to me. But you see that in childhood. You see that in her as a little girl. When you're reading or listening to this book, that sweetheart, that loyal friend is there. She's there from childhood. And Scientology didn't take that away from her. They tried. They tried with the spying of the family. They tried with interfering with the family. They tried with interfering with her family and her husband at the time when they left Scientology, but they didn't. When you have every reason in the world to be bitter, to hate, to be angry, and you don't show up in life like that, I think that's something to pay attention to. And I think that's why her story is so powerful as well, why her book still does well, and her channel, of course, too. Granny G says, I listened on Audible. It's a wonderful book. It is. And the young woman who does the voice on the book sounds like a younger Jenna. I thought that was interesting. Failed Pessimist says Jenna had essentially no parents, and her two older brothers were never around either to protect her. Yeah, in the book, it talks about when the family was split up and then sometimes when she would see them again. James says Jenna's book is my favorite Scientology book. That is so cool. And thank you, Sandy, for sharing the link. Beyond Belief, My Secret Life Inside Scientology and My Harrowing Escape by Jenna Miscavige. Thank you for that, Sandy. I'm going to go link that below in the description. PK from AK says Scientology is the root cause of anyone in Scientology that has cluster B personality disorders. Okay, I don't know what cluster B personality disorders are, but I will look that up. Sandy says Jenna has truly blossomed since escaping Scientology. Yeah, truly. And it gives me hope for so many. It gives me hope for this other second and third generation Scientologists who are still there in Scientology. Some of them who might be watching these videos, my videos, Jenna's videos. And I think it's really important to share that, hey, it's not the easiest thing to recover. In fact, as I mentioned earlier, cult experts will tell you recovering from Scientology, it's the most difficult cult to recover from, but you can do it. You can still figure out who you are outside of this. And I think it's that way with any controlling group, with any trauma in your past, right? It doesn't have to define who we are today. It doesn't have to dictate how we show up. No matter what happens in life, no matter what happened to me growing up or as an adult in Scientology, it doesn't give me license to, mistreat other people or show up as a Sea Org member would, which is something that, my time in leaving Scientology took me a long time to distance to figure out what was Scientology indoctrination as a Sea Org member and what was actually me. And honestly, it's something I continue to do to this day. And I do it in large part with all of you here now on YouTube. Nisa says these kids were really robbed of a real childhood. That is absolutely true. I find myself often wanting to do, I don't know, I feel like I have a childlike curiosity about a lot of things because even though I've been out of Scientology for 14 years, I've been raising kids, those experiences as a child outside of Scientology or as a teenager outside of Scientology, as a young adult outside of Scientology, all those formative years, that wasn't something that I got to experience. So I'm experiencing it now. I am. So many of the experiences I have around the world, I'm just still amazed by, amazed by. Tina, good to see you. K-Flick, thank you so much. K-Fick, actually, there's no L there. All right. That's what I got for you. This article just came out. I'm going to link Jenna's book and title in the description of this video. Please hit that like button and hit subscribe. I'm going to be back again, if not later today, tomorrow for sure with a recap. I'm going to do it at 10 a.m. Central. Scientology news. Look for it. But I might pop on later. Oliver, my grandson, really wants to pop on for another YouTube. I told him maybe later on. We shall see. We'll see. We'll see. Thank you guys for being here. Thank you so much, Sandy, for helping me moderating today. Everybody, I hope you get out and have an amazing cult-free day.